Entrepreneurship, the way to future. It is indeed a very important skill for all the individuals. To guide us on entrepreneurship today, we have Mr. Gaurav Rastogi, sir. Mr. Gaurav, sir, is founder of Ekra Works and founder and CEO of Do Loop Digital. Sir has completed his BE Mechanical Engineering from Delhi College of Engineering and has done his post-graduation diploma in management, MBA, from one of the most prestigious colleges of India, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Sir is specialized in skills like business to business transformation, business development, analytics, strategy, and many more. In today's session, Sir will guide us through some engaging topics such as experimenting, identifying effective strategies, embracing risks, taking control of your life and career, and much more.
I would like to request you all to please open your front cameras for a group photo. I would like to request you all, please open your front cameras for a group photo. Thank you, everyone.
Now, I request Mr. Gaurav, sir, to take the session forward.
Thank you, Arashi. Thank you, Gyana, for coordinating this session. I'd like to thank Dr. Jai Gera for inviting me. Thanks also to your principal for having me over. And I welcome everyone to today's conversation. We have 90 minutes together. I'm going to talk to you about entrepreneurship in 5 chapters. But before we go in, Arashi, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful. All right, so now we want to make this interactive and fun. I want you to take notes. So make sure you have paper and pencils and things that you're going to write. I want you to listen carefully, but in a way that you can ask questions. Listen, think about what I'm saying, ask questions, type them into the chat, and Gyana and Arushi will pick those up, and then we can answer questions as we go along. Through the journey. All right. Now, in today's conversation, I will talk to you about entrepreneurship from 5 different angles. First, I'll talk to you about why this has become an important thing today. What's happening in the world around us? Most of you, I think, are computer science students. So I will talk to you also about why what you're doing is very important to the whole craft of entrepreneurship. Then I'll talk about what it is in a little more detail in terms of how it came to be, what it is, and really what's going on behind it. Then I will talk to you about, why do it? Why should you do it? What kind of resources do you need? What kind of effort does it take to be an entrepreneur? And then we'll talk about when's a good time to do things, when is it that you're feeling that energy and so on. And finally, I'll talk to you a little about, in the end, about safety and madness. And I'll talk to you about those each for about 15 to 20 minutes each. There is someone there's a little bit of background noise at my end. I guess that's Professor Tareja. Rimati Namaskar, and good to see you here. I'm hearing some shuffling sounds over. Oh, there you go. Somebody needs to mute. All right, wonderful. Okay. All right. So once again, my name is Gaurav Rastogi. I grew up in Delhi, so I have a lot of affinity for all of you who are now living in Delhi while you're doing your studies. I went to college in Delhi, and I still have my family in Delhi, so I have a lot of friends and family there. I'm happy to talk to you today. You're still seeing things on my screen in front of me, right over here somewhere? Okay, good. All right, so let's get into the first question, which is why is now a good time? What's going on in the world around us? Okay, and this is going to be our chapter one. Chapter one is a Sanskrit word. I'm going to use a lot of Hindi and Sanskrit. I hope you'll follow along. I'll describe everything as we go along. Samsara Davanala. The world is a forest fire, a raging forest fire. These are the famous starting words of a famous kirtan in India, and these are very appropriate for the world we have found ourselves in. We have found ourselves in a world which is a raging forest fire. I live in California. You folks in Delhi won't understand, but I live in California, which is essentially, it's a lot of dry grass and trees, tall trees, old trees, and of course, people living in high density areas. And sometimes what happens is the electric wires rub against the trees, and then it starts a spark. That spark starts a fire. The winds are 10, 15, 20, 30 miles an hour. And eventually that fire catches, it jumps over roads, trees, and then the entire area is burnt down to a crisp. Everything, houses are flattened, and everything disappears. It's a very scary situation to be in. And you've probably seen those photos from the New York side this time with the red and orange skies. A raging forest fire is something that we must be concerned about. We find ourselves in such a world today. The world is being utterly destroyed and remade in this particular moment. Everything that your parents were taught, everything that they understood about the world, all of that has disappeared. All that firmness, everything I was educated in, everything is up for grabs. The way countries run, the way economies run, the way societies run, companies run, families run, people run, the way anything works is being destroyed. What's going on? What's going on is a ingestion of technology. The stuff that you folks will be working on, it's changing and accelerating the pace of change every day. So that's why it's like a forest fire. A forest fire, when it starts out, it catches pace. You know, a little thing, when you light a matchstick, you blow at it, it shuts off, right? It turns off. But a forest fire, when you apply winds to it, it actually rages on even more. And that's what's happening in the world, where we find ourselves, I wrote a book about this last year, we find ourselves in a world which is essentially the age of destruction and distraction. And I'll describe what that means. You look at, for example, 5 years ago in India, we did not have a very prevalent digital currency. And now, can you imagine actually carrying cash around? And most people I know in India, when I come to India, I carry cash, but I'm probably the only person carrying cash. I myself prefer to pay on UPI. The point is, in 5 years, everything has changed on how you carry money and how you make payments. That's just a very small example. Now you can organize protests and bring down governments by using technology. Cyber attacks can bring down governments, economies, companies. You can see how technology is reshaping everything, how economies work, how countries work. Now, people can live in India, but mentally they can be American because the culture they're absorbing is American culture, for example. And so this world of churn is changing faster and faster. And a moment like that in history is actually quite an interesting time to be in, because when things are stable, you can have companies that grow large, right? Because it makes sense to keep doing things the same way, reduce the cost of doing them, sell things cheaper, become larger and so on and so forth. All of that is possible when things are stable. When things are unstable, such as now, you would call it's high volatility. Things are moving too quickly. When things are moving too quickly, large companies are not able to change that fast. They have inertia. If you think about physics, right? They have inertia. And because of that, small companies that didn't exist earlier can come in and completely transform the world. Now, 10, 15 years ago, there was nothing called fintech, for example. Nothing. I mean, what is a fintech? You had banks, and the best careers were banks, investment banks, and so on, right? Now, you would be hard pressed to find a single bank that doesn't say, oh, we're not a bank, we're a technology company in the banking business. So what happened? What happened is technology changed their business completely. And the small companies that didn't exist earlier, now payment companies, you look at Paytm, for example, came out of nowhere, and suddenly they do a large volume of payments, payment handling. Credit card companies used to make a lot of money, but now RuPay came along, and credit card companies in India don't make money, right? So larger companies, established companies, which traditionally have a lot of strength because they have access to customers, they have money to spend on things, they can reduce the cost of buying raw material, they can control a lot of their expenses. And so large companies had a natural advantage when things are not changing so fast. But when things are changing fast, they don't have as much advantage. Who has advantage? Younger companies do. And that's why entrepreneurship is now a very popular theme in the world around us. And that's why you're interested in it. That's why I'm talking to you about it, which is the world is going through a massive change. And here, the advantage of larger companies is lesser. And you individually with your ideas and your own passion can make a difference and can hope to make it big. Some of the largest, most valuable companies in the world are what are these? Apple, Google, Microsoft. Apple and Microsoft are 40-year-old companies. Google is a 20-year-old company, right? So newer companies have completely transformed and are now the most valuable companies in the world. Tesla 10 years ago didn't sell anything, and now they're the most valuable car company. So you can see entrepreneurship. This is a great time to be an entrepreneur because earlier it used to be risky. When I came out of college and MBA, people would not, we were not doing entrepreneurship after our studies because we didn't know anything. We didn't have any capability, but also it was risky. It was better to take a job and stay there. Now it has changed to the point where young people think it's better to start something than to work in a company, right? That equation has shifted. It's still good to work in a company, but it's more acceptable to do your own startup and figure things out because of what I just told you. The world is in a massive change cycle right now. I'll tell you a little bit about me and what I am doing, just as an example. So as I'm telling you about this forest fire and everything, I will also give you my own perspective of my own business. I've had a reasonably good career in large companies. I used to be at a company called Infosys, naam suna hoga aapne. And then after that, I've been working with startups. I had my own startup and we sold it. But now I'm doing something completely different this year. This year, I've actually decided to start a company focused on the second part of the book I told you. This is the age of destruction and distraction, right? The world outside is in flux. Everything is changing. And you might think there is relief inside, but no. Technology has also invaded our minds. We are no longer at peace inside either because we are distracted. Always on Insta, always on WhatsApp, always messaging, always getting angry, always getting jealous, right? We are distracted, outraged, manipulated by technology. And now, if you're a professional, I wrote a book about this last year. It came out through Oxford University Press. And my conclusion in that book was, if you're a professional in the world, then you have to find ways to deal with all the destruction and distraction. You people, that as you children are, when you folks are coming out into the workforce, if you don't know how to handle your own mind, if you don't know how to focus your mind, attention, and energy, you're going to find yourself completely unhappy. Because outside there's no relief. Every 2 days something is changing and so on. Inside there's no relief either. So neither outside nor inside there is any relief. So I decided, over the last 10 years, I've been teaching meditation privately and as a nonprofit thing. And I teach meditation, I teach philosophy, I run a school for philosophy, for Karma Yoga. All of those things are nonprofit things. But the one problem that I wanted to fix was, how are professionals going to learn and change themselves? And the first problem I wanted to tackle was, how are we going to get back our mind, attention, and energy? Now you think about your own mind. You're always on the phone. You're always texting. You're always thinking about what somebody else said. You texted something, people liked it, and so on, right? So your mind is now in that little handheld device or your email or what have you, right? If you're carrying 15 things in your head, how can you focus? And if you can't focus, how can you have those intuitive insights? How can you get your work done? How can you feel satisfied that, okay, today I got something done? Do you not have days when you begin the day and then at the end of the day, you look back and you're thinking, kya kiya maine aaj? You don't know. The day has just elapsed, but you don't have any satisfaction out of that. So it is to solve these problems that I decided I must do something, because I'm a technologist and I'm a yogi, and I can combine those and create something that can help professionals take back their mind, attention, and energy. So what did I do? So I this is a problem that I want to solve, right? So I'm giving you an idea of how an entrepreneur is thinking. This is a problem I want to solve. And you'll see in the next chapters, a couple of chapters down, that this is very important. You need to know what problems people have, right? So the first thing is, I know that people have problems with their attention. Okay. They want to solve their attention problem because they're not feeling satisfied at work. You read the studies and you will see that there is a rise in disengagement in the workforce. People at work are not happy working wherever they're working. Why? They're getting no joy out of it. Maza nahi aa raha. There is also a high incidence of burnout. People have just lost energy. There's no joy, right? They're just carrying along. Eventually, they are happy to quit their jobs, leave their families. They're just done, right? So all of those are symptoms that are arising of this out of this underlying problem, which is we don't have attention at work. And so to solve this problem, now I know, so I'm telling you that I've determined that there is a problem that people want to solve. Okay, I want to solve that problem. Now, there are other people solving this problem. For example, if I want to say you should meditate, well, you could go to Art of Living, you could go to Isha Yoga, you could go to your neighborhood ashram and learn meditation. You could go online and learn meditation. That's not the problem. The problem seems to be there's a supply of meditation, but you can't form a habit out of it, right? You may have even done those courses, but you don't know how to include those in your workday. You also don't know how to hold yourself accountable. You also don't know if you're getting better or not. Those are the problems you're still dealing with. So as an entrepreneur, I'm trying to see, okay, is there a problem that people are facing? Are there other people trying to solve this problem? Is this problem being solved adequately? Or is there some part of the problem that hasn't been solved? And can I solve it either better, cheaper, faster, or more, right? Those are the things that I can do. So the way I started thinking about it is, all right, how can I solve this problem more satisfactorily? And so what I did was, over the last couple of years, go through several iterations of ideas, coming down to one simple idea that I want to begin with, which is simply this. you need to focus and finish one task at a time, right? Just those few words. I want to help you focus and finish one task at a time. And so I built a whole business around it. And I haven't talked to you about money yet because I will talk about it later. What we're doing now is finding, if we've created a 1 hour meeting, you add that meeting to your calendar. It's like going to a class. In that meeting, when you come in, I have a structured methodology where you come in, we declutter our mind, we focus for 20 minutes using meditation practices that I guide. And then for 40 minutes, you do your own thing. You do your work that you came in to do, but only one thing. So remember, focus and finish one task at a time. And now when people come out at the other side, I ask them to give me a response. How well are you doing? Did this make sense? Did you finish your work? How much attention were you able to pay? And I have a way of measuring all of these, and they report back. So far, people have said that 80% of the people were able to finish their work. They found that they were 4 times more productive during this session, and they found that they were able to hold their attention 6 out of 9 times. And so that's pretty good. The more meetings they'll do, the better they'll get at it. But you get a sense of how I'm thinking about this problem, which is what I wanted to convey to you in this part of the thing, which is I see a problem that needs to be solved, is not being solved properly, and can be solved properly using specific knowledge that I have and this ingenuity that I will use. And I'll talk more about each of these things as we go along. All right. So this was chapter 1, which is Sansar Davanala. All right, we're done with that. Next up is chapter 2. Chapter 2, Seva Bhav. When you're an entrepreneur, I meet entrepreneurs all day. I live in San Francisco Bay Area, which is Silicon Valley. This is what we do here. We have a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of my friends are entrepreneurs. And a lot of times when I meet entrepreneurs, they seem to have a problem, which is they don't have a good idea of what their client's problem is. They tend to have a technology. I have an AI product looking for a problem to solve. For example, I'm just giving an example, right? And so what happens in those approaches is you're not a very good entrepreneur. You haven't found a market. So in entrepreneurship, it's called product market fit. And so does your product, as you've designed it, match the needs of the market? And entrepreneurs are always looking for a fit, because when there is fit, what happens is the market pulls your product. You may have a 50% product. It's not great, but the demand is so much that they will pull you a product and they will force you to improve. That's a product market fit in entrepreneur circles. Now, the entrepreneurs I typically meet are technical entrepreneurs that know how to do technology things, but don't know how it solves somebody's problem. And that gives them a lot of trouble because now they don't know which way to build their products. They don't know how to sell their product. It takes them a very long time to explain their product and so on and so forth, right? And so the first thing that you need to do when you're an entrepreneur is develop this Seva Bhav. I hope everyone understands Hindi, but I will describe what it means in the next slide anyway, which is a sense of thinking of entrepreneurship as an opportunity to serve and solve. I'll repeat this and I'll explain every one of this. You are serving people who will pay you to serve them, right? And you're solving a problem. And those are important things to think about because you're going to think about this question. How can I solve your problem? Great entrepreneurs listen, have big ears, right? They have huge ears and they're always listening. You go out and solve a problem that you can understand and solve. That's why when you hear these garage startup stories, these are people that have started something in the garage. But even if you look at Apple, for example, these guys were interested in their product. They were solving for their own selves, people like themselves. They were their own buyer in that sense. They knew exactly what the enthusiast community wanted. And they said, we'll build these computers and sell them because people like us want to buy these computers. And that's your clue to entrepreneurship, because you now have to think about this question. You know how you, when you go shopping, you go into a shop and they always ask you, "Aiye baithiye aur kya lenge aap?" Right? Because they want you to sit down and actually just buy things for them, of course, right? But they're also trying to figure out what exactly you're looking for, and therefore how they can help you, how they can sell to you whatever it is that you want to buy. That's the spirit of an entrepreneur, which is you're trying to find ways to understand your customer and solve the problem that they have. So as you're thinking about entrepreneurship, you have to just pay attention to this. You have to grow very large ears. You have to pay attention to what people are saying, how people are doing things, what they're not saying, how they're saying it, and when they're pausing. You have to pay a lot of attention to these things, because that's what the entrepreneur is doing. They will have an insight of some sort. Sorry, one second, I'm trying to organize my screen here so I can figure out what I'm going to say. All right, you need to have an insight of some sort in order to solve a problem. So the two skills that you need to have here, just to recap, in chapter 2, are your ability to serve your customer and your ability to solve their problem. So I've talked to you about serving the customers, which is pay attention to their problems, how they're doing the things that they're doing, what are the challenges they're facing, and then figure out, okay, I think I can improve this problem. And then you solve it. Problem-solving skills are extremely important for entrepreneurs, because now you're thinking about, okay, this is the way. For example, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a food delivery startup, right? What is the problem that you're solving? You're saying, how can I deliver this food in 10 minutes or less? All right. Now that's the problem statement. How did you arrive at that question? You talked to people and you realize people like to order food, but people also like to have the food quickly because they're usually ordering when they're hungry. And so you don't want too much time to elapse. So when you talk to people, you realize that people like to have things delivered to them fast. And then you say, okay, can I deliver this in 10 minutes? What will it take for me to deliver food in 10 minutes or less? Right? And that's an example of the problem-solving capability. Now you start using your education, your intelligence, your jugaad, your jugat, and I will talk all about all of these later, but you start using those and putting those to work. But once you're done with that, you're going to launch your product. The way you make your money is almost always you are serving someone who is paying you to solve a problem. Whether that's a problem of entertainment, for example, here's my Netflix subscription, you're getting bored, now you have something to watch on your phone. YouTube does that as well with entertainment as well, right? Okay, now the questions are coming in. This is great. And Aditi, great question. Keep the questions coming. I will address some of your questions. So problem solving is a capability that you need to build. Now, the question you might have, and I'm leading into Aditi's question, but I'll answer her question more properly later. Now, problem solving is something that you can learn in a college. But problem solving is something that you must learn on your own, because it requires you to use your brain the way your brain is wired. So now let me tell you how I solve my problems. For example, when I told you that people don't have attention span, and now I need them to, I need to find a way to bring their attention into focus and give them time to do their work. So now I'm thinking about, how do I solve this problem? What I ended up doing in the way I'm doing this model is very simple. I said, The first thing is I need them to stop thinking about the 200 things that are sitting in their head. So I must find a way to declutter their mind. I must find a way to focus on only one thing at a time. I must find a way to use the tools of meditation to bring the mind, attention, and energy into a smooth flow state. Then I must find a way to keep people's attention firmly with the task that they want to do. Then I must find a way to have this habit build up. You see what I'm doing here, right? I'm taking a big problem and I'm breaking it down into smaller problems. That's a tool of problem solving. How do you learn it? You learn it by doing. You learn it by solving problems. Once you've solved enough problems, you figure out how you do it. You can learn ways, problem-solving tools. Those are available. You can always Google them and so on. But you learn most by applying. And here, maybe here I will give you an example. Because you're in Delhi, I'll give you a very Delhi example. You've probably been to go shopping at Janpath or Sanjeev or Sarojini. So let's talk about Janpath. You go to Janpath, and the thing I've always appreciated is those little streets, young kids, 5-year, 7-year, 9-year-old kids are haggling with tourists. I suppose they still do that now, but they're haggling with tourists in a very interesting manner, which is to say they're haggling in French, German, Japanese, or what have you. And just down the street from Janpath is Max Muller Bhavan, which is where they teach German. And you would think, all right, maybe the kid went to Max Muller Bhavan to learn, functional German in order to negotiate with German tourists. And you already know that isn't the case. They barely know anything, but they know enough German. They have picked up on the street enough German to negotiate with a German tourist, to tell them numbers in German and so on. The point of this is problem solving can be learned mostly by doing. You can go to Max Muller Bhavan for 4 years and still not be able to converse with people in German because you're not confident. But you could learn German by confidently talking to German tourists. That's just the way these things work, right? So coming back here, the two things you're going to need to be a good entrepreneur is to, one, be able to have a spirit of service. And I'll tell you more about it. And the second is to acquire problem-solving capabilities. Learn how to solve problems. And customer problems is one problem. As your company grows, you're going to run into other problems. Your problem might be, how do I find this money? Your problem might be, how do I hire someone or fire someone? These are all problems you're going to have. Let me go back to the spirit of service, the Seva Bhav that we came into this chapter with. The Seva Bhav, when you're running a business, whether it's a delivery business or a technology business or a cloud business or an IT business or an AI business, ultimately you're going to have people who pay you to get your service or your product. And you have to have a spirit of service. If you think poorly of your customers, if you think that you're doing them a favor by selling them your wares, then you will not have customers after some time, because they might decide to go with someone that's more pleasant, who thinks a little more highly of them, right? So having a spirit of service is very important because it allows you to build a respectful relationship with your customer, which allows your business to grow. Otherwise, you'll keep selling and losing customers. So you have to cultivate a spirit of service, Seva Bhava, because that brings you the money, that brings you the fuel for your business, that brings you all the growth. Those customers are what your investors are interested in. Those customers are what your employees are excited about. So having a spirit of service is very important. And the spirit of service isn't about you. A lot of people are interested in entrepreneurship because they think they'll make a lot of money. Well, if that's your objective, I should tell you to stop already and never do this, think about this again, because most people in entrepreneurship will not make money. It's the same as you go to a casino, which not an Indian example, but when you go to a casino and play, gamble, right? Who makes money? The house, the gambling company makes money. People never make money from gambling. That's just the rule. right? The house always wins. It's the same in entrepreneurship. Most people will not make the sort of money you hear about, that Zuckerberg is so many billion and Falana is so many billion, right? Most people will never see that kind of money. So if you're doing it for yourself, you're definitely not going to find that sort of money, because you'll run into trouble. You'll fake your numbers and you'll get into all sorts of unethical things because you're thinking about yourself. Instead, and I'll talk about this later, instead, if you focus on serving your customer, solving their problem in a way that is satisfactory to them and to you, you will find a way to make money. And if the problem you're solving is more common, then more people will buy your product. If your problem you're solving is more valuable, then they'll give you more money. And all of those will lead to you becoming a very rich entrepreneur. But it starts with the ability to solve and serve your customers. So that's a very important skill to have as you're thinking about entrepreneurship. All right, I'm going to pause here, and then we will get into what are the types of skills you need. But before that, I'll see if there are any questions, comments, feedback, and I'll take a sip of water while this is happening. All right. All right, Aditi, I will answer your question briefly now. Do you need to have a business management certificate on entrepreneurship? No, you don't. It helps to have it, but you don't. The thing is, entrepreneurship is an intuitive capability. You can learn how to, it's like learning to swim. You should learn the theory of density and how the physiology is and how people can move. All of that theory is good, but you only learn swimming by being thrown into the water, right? It's the same with entrepreneurship. The certificate cannot be an excuse for not doing it. You can do the certificate because it gives you the tools, and it expands your mental faculty. It allows you to think about new things. For example, you're doing computer science, you may not know accounting, and you may not know economics and how economies work. And those are things that you need to learn. And for those purposes, you can do whatever degree you need, whether it's entrepreneurship or not. But the degree is not the important thing. The learning is the important thing. And the best way of learning is by doing. That's just the main takeaway that I want you to have over here. Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you, Aditi. All right. Otherwise, we move to chapter number 3, Shraddha and Saburi. Now, those are words that you would find in a temple. Specifically, if you go to any Sai Baba temple, above Sai Baba, on this side it says Shraddha, this side it says Saburi. What do those words mean? And why am I using them in the context of an entrepreneurship chapter, right? All right, think about that for a couple of seconds as I change slides. All right. Entrepreneurship is all about dreaming and doing. When you're an entrepreneur, most of the times you're doing something that does not exist. You're creating something that does not exist. You're trying to be someone that does not yet exist, right? If Elon Musk is building an electric car, electric cars are an impossibility, because where are you going to find charging stations? How are you going to find the batteries? Where are you going to find the specific metallurgy experience? There are so many reasons why it shouldn't work, right? And so if you are a doubting kind of person, then there are so many reasons to not do all of this stuff, because it's obviously a ridiculous idea. Why is the man sending a car to Mars or people to Mars or whatever? It's a stupid idea. The point is, it's a stupid idea to everyone else until it gets done. And when it's done, it's no longer stupid. It becomes the new obvious idea. When the iPhone came out in 2007, no one really needed an iPhone. We already had 3 devices on our belt. We used to look like Batman. There used to be a music device. There used to be a phone. And you used to carry a computer for your internet access, all sorts of amazing things, right? And then this guy comes along, he says, I have this thing that does everything together. And suddenly everyone wants an iPhone, and now smartphones, everyone has a smartphone, right? The point is, you need to learn to believe. That's Shraddha. The ability to dream is extremely important for an entrepreneur. The ability to dream in the face of reality is extremely important for an entrepreneur. अगर obvious है तो सभी कर रहे होते, right? But obvious नहीं है. आपको दिख रहा है. आपको कैसे दिख रहा है? How have you cultivated this capacity to see things? How have you cultivated this capacity to believe your own words that this can happen, this will happen? Those are important things. That's what you need to learn as you think about becoming an entrepreneur. In my case, for example, I talked myself into the following statement, that there is no future in which professionals that hope to remain employed profitably at high wages, there is no future where these people will not have a meditation practice as part of their everyday work process. I've convinced myself of it. Why have I convinced myself of it? Because for my business, I've decided that what's a good professional? If you're distracted and you're working at 1/15th your brain, because the 14 out of 15 of your brain functions are doing other stuff, right? Doing WhatsApp and Instagram and whatever. If I'm distracted, I'm working at 1/15th my brain. Surely someone will come up with an AI that will automate my job. 1/15th a human brain is not too complex, right? So if you're a professional, what are the things that you're doing? You have intuitive insight. You have the ability to connect with other people. You have the ability to have ideas and execute on ideas and have complex things. Take a whole complex set of data into your head and come out with a brilliant insight. Those are things that a professional can do that AI will not be doing for some time to come. And so if you're a professional that wants to be employed well, you need to know how to take back your mind, right? From all the distraction. Now, how are you going to take back your mind from all the distraction? You need a way to learn to meditate. That's the only game in town. You could surely meditate, or you could also medicate yourself. A lot of people do that over here, which is they take these, uppers and downers and so on. But at some point, in a few years, the body will get used to it, and people will have adverse impact of that. And so the most sustainable way to be a high function professional, I've convinced myself, is that someone will figure out a way to get meditation into a work schedule. So I have had to convince myself of this, and you cannot shake me off from this conviction. That's Shraddha. An ability to dream, an ability to actually believe this stuff is very important. Now, the education system you're part of, the one that I went to as well, teaches us to prove things. Prove that falana, such and such. And at the end of that, you say QED, proven as desired. The problem with this need to prove everything is that we have learned how to doubt everything. Kaise hoga? Nahi hoga? Prove karo. Right? Learning to doubt is a very important thing to learn. But learning to believe, learning to dream is a very important thing to learn as well. And we are not taught that at school. You have to learn to trust yourself and your dreams. And so dreaming is an extremely important part of being an entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur is half mad, dreaming of a world that does not yet exist, solving a problem that no one thinks is solvable. And yet they'll figure out a way to do it. But dreams take doing. Entrepreneurship sounds like something you might watch on TV and you think, oh, this is cool, this is very easy to do. It's not easy. It's a lot of doing, and it requires a lot of hard work every day, because you're not actually drawing a large salary to begin with. And now every day you might have episodes where you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be very rich. This is at 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, you're thinking, oh my God, it's all a disaster. I made a mistake, and now I shouldn't have done this. My life is a waste. Same day service. And then like 2 hours later, you're thinking, oh, this is crazy. I'm going to be like super rich. This is great. The point is you go through these massive changes in your fortune, in your own mind every day. And with all that craziness, you have to do things. You have to work hard to solve the problems that need to be solved. The technology problem, the people problem, the funding problem, the customer problem, all of these are hard work. And when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, you have to sign up to doing all the hard work. That's when the payoff is. So being passionate is an extremely important skill and a requirement for being a good entrepreneur. If you're not passionate, then you'll run out of juice. All right. So that concludes our chapter 3. How are we doing on time? Somebody tell me what's going on. Otherwise, I will keep rolling. All right. So we went through Shraddha and Saburi both. By the way, in case you're wondering what those words mean, Shraddha, of course, is Shraddha, which is the ability to believe unconditionally. Right? Saburi is patience, sabr, as you say in Hindi, right? Colloquial Hindi, sabr karo. Patience, the ability to work hard endlessly and not get any results out of it. Because kal aayega, parson aayega, kabhi bhi aayega, lekin aayega. Right? And that's a very important thing to cultivate as an entrepreneur. The ability to believe and the ability to put hard work into that belief to make those outcomes possible. That concludes our chapter 3. Now we're going to go to chapter 4. This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun because I'm going to put 2 more Hindi Sanskrit words out there, and I will explain what those are. Now, the question is this: in using what, when should you do this? What kind of things should you do? What kind of capabilities should you deploy? And for that, I have 2 more Hindi Sanskrit words, and I will explain these as we come along. Chapter 4 is Swadharma and Samaya. Okay, I'll explain what both of these mean. Your inner nature and time. Your inner nature is the things you like doing, the things you're good at, the things you can be good at if you learned how to, the kind of discipline that you have, the kind of things that you're always interested in solving. That's your inner nature. Aapka swadharma hai. This is how you're built. You can't change it. It's how you were born, and it keeps changing over time because you're interested in something now and some other thing later. But you have to have a very strong understanding of your own likes and dislikes. So a lot of good entrepreneurs, like I told you, the Apple story or Elon Musk story, they're solving a problem they're very interested in. When Apple started, they were computer enthusiasts and they were interested in computers, building computers. And that's why they were able to do it for so long. Entrepreneurship is not a quick fix. It's not as if you start a company today and I'm now a crorepati and I'm good to go. No. When you're an entrepreneur, you could spend 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 20 years doing the same thing, fighting the same fight, and at some point it pays off. You either run out of money or you run out of energy. But you will not run out of energy if it's in line with your inner nature, if it's a thing that you like doing, if it's a thing whose time has come. Now, let me talk to you about time. And let me talk to you about both actually with a different thing. You will see a lot of times that different companies have come up with the same idea. It may not be that they're copying each other. It may be that they're copying each other, but it may be that it's an idea whose time has come. And there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. There are many entrepreneurs. For example, I had an AI startup, but it was 5 years before it now. So its time had not yet come. And when the time is not yet right, you have to work harder at, okay, I'll come to that. You have to work harder at educating your customer that they have a problem. You have to work harder at raising money. You have to work harder at recruiting because no one wants to do whatever crazy thing you're doing, right? And so, समय बहुत important होता है. You have to have a good sense of time. And that's what we're doing in this particular chapter. You have to build a very strong intuition for your inner nature and time. But I have good news for you. I have good news for you because you have two friends that you can use to help you. This is what will give you force. This will what will give you an energy and enthusiasm. And those are, well, Sati or Hathi. That's going to just keep that in mind. Sati or Hathi. And I'll tell you exactly what those mean in a couple of minutes. You have to find support and momentum as an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, ab akele karoge to thak jaoge. Your inner nature might be of one type. I only like creating things. I don't like doing the same thing every day. I get bored, right? So now you need to find partners. You need to build a team, Sathi. You need to find a team that has complementary skills. This is a lot of hard work as an entrepreneur. You have to have a good sense of yourself. You have to have a good sense of other people. And you have to know that you don't have to be identical. In fact, you do not want identical looking people in the same startup, because then the same skill is repeated, but the other skills you need are not there. So you now have to assemble a team, Sathi, that have this capability. Not just that. You have to look around for who wants to go where I want to go. And now coming to your investment question and the government thing, a good Sathi for you is your investor. In this case, the government, for example, has money put aside in schemes. Unfortunately, I don't have a good sense of the government schemes in India because I'm not in India, so I can't really speak authoritatively about that. But I do know that the Indian government is spending a lot of money for entrepreneurship cells. I know that there are angel investors. I know there are seed investments that are available. I know there are incubators all over India now, right? They could be good Sathis for you because they want what you want. Their interests are the same as your interests, which is you want to make a startup and have it be successful. They want you to make a startup and be successful. So you now have a Sathi, right? So you have to find those people that need to support you. But even more interesting than your Sathi is the Hathi. Now, what is this Hathi thing that I'm talking about? I'm going to give you what I will call Hathi Niti. Here's what a story is. There's a story about an elephant, ek hathi hai, and he's going through the top of a mountain, and he's raising a large dust storm as he's walking. Dust, like every step there's dust. And then he goes to this rope bridge and he crosses it. Now, obviously, it's an elephant on a rope bridge. So, kya hone wala hai? The bridge is going to shake. The bridge is going to shake. He's walking, the bridge is shaking. He's walking, the bridge is shaking. He's walking, the bridge is shaking. He shakes the bridge and gets to the other side. And then he's walking, and now there's a dust storm, and he moves his ear. As he moves his ear, there's a buzzing sound in his ear. He buzzes the machhar away. There's a machhar baitha hua hai yahan pe. Flea, translated as machhar. वो मच्छर जो है वो हाथी के कान में कह रहा है, मच्छर has been sitting on this hathi from the beginning, from before he got on the bridge, and then as the bridge has been shaking, he's been sitting on the elephant, right? He's crossed over to the other side, and now the machhar is saying with a tremendous amount of confidence, भाई हमने तो आज ब्रिज को हिला दिया ना, right? He is taking credit for moving the bridge, but he has done, the machhar has no locus standi in this, has no standing in this thing, right? It's the elephant. The elephant doesn't even care about the machhar. As an entrepreneur, you have to find that hathi. What is a hathi? Hathi is a trend. Hathi is technology. So things that are going to happen, whether you do it or not, are your friend, because you can ride that wave. So you have to and technology you can use I'll tell you my example. For example, I'm now doing this, and to me the hathi that I am riding is the use of YouTube algorithms, the use of LinkedIn algorithms. As I create content, I put it out on YouTube. YouTube picks it up. Some people watch it all the way to the end, and then YouTube thinks, okay, they like this guy's content, let me send him more content. Then other people like these people, it says, okay, they haven't seen Gaurav's content, but other people like this fellow, like Gaurav's content, let me send them Gaurav's content. and then so on. So YouTube is a massive multi-billion-dollar company. Their algorithm is designed around content. And that's a Hathi I can ride, right? I don't need to create that algorithm. I just need to use it to my advantage to get there. It's the same with how Uber came to be. Uber did not put satellites up in the sky for GPSs. Uber did not create the phones. Uber did not create the taxi system. Uber did not create the GPS system. Uber created none of those. But it was inevitable that someone's going to bring all of these together and create a taxi hailing service, which is all that Uber created. Itne bade hathi usne ride kare. And that's what makes a good entrepreneur. If you're doing all the hard work, then you're not going to get as much payoff. So think about this question as you think about becoming an entrepreneur, which is Hathi or Sathi. Those are both going to be very important. All right, so that concludes chapter 4 of what I wanted to cover. And now we will move on to chapter 5. Chapter 5 are 3 words I'd like to talk to you, and here I will address your question. All right. The first word is jugaad. Very famous word. It's a very familiar word in India, especially in Delhi, because log jugaad karte rehte hain. Junoon and kartavya. That sounds like something Amitabh Bachchan might say, but I will explain each of these words clearly. As an entrepreneur, the ability to find and solve problems is your friend, as I told you. Ingenuity, jugaad, is an essential part of being an entrepreneur. You run into, and not jugaad as in, oh bhai jugaad laga liya type ka, not jugaad as in cutting corners, jugaad as in the ability to say, you know what, there's a problem, but jugaad hai apne paas. I will go around the problem. And for that, I will introduce you to another creature. This creature, तो पहले हाथी नीति बताई थी, अब मैं ant नीति बताता हूं आपको. Ants. You've ever seen those ants at home? They're going in a line, going in a line, going in a line. And this is, girls are on this call, so girls probably don't do this, but boys do this all the time, I assure you, because I've done it all the time. Now, I won't bother the ants other than I'll draw a line between their path. I know they're using pheromones to travel, right? So if I draw a line with my finger, then that path is cut. That ant is confused because the ant behind does not know where to go. So, or I might put a rock or a stone there in the way just to block it. The ant is frazzled for a second. And then it says, well, forget it. I'm going to go around this. And then it goes around. It goes this way, goes around, finds the pheromone trail, and goes away. And that is the important thing over here, that an entrepreneur does not give up. Problems are their friend, right? Every time there's a problem, if every time you get a problem, you give up, then you're not much of an entrepreneur, right? So you have to, the English word for that is have ingenuity, an ability to go around problems. Problems that you can solve, you solve. The problems that you cannot solve, you go around that, but you never let problems come in the way of your progress, or stop you, or disappoint you, or deter you. That's the first thing. The second is passion. Junoon. Junoon hona bahut zaruri hai. You could think of it as madness. Other people think of it as madness. But you have to cultivate that passion. I told you about the passion to serve people, right? The passion for the industry you're in, the thing that you're doing, and the product that you're building is extremely important. Because an entrepreneur's job is very hard. You have to recruit other people. You have to sell your product. You have to sell yourself in the sense that, look, I'm a great guy, give me money, right? All of that requires you to be passionate, not indifferent, not lukewarm, nahi chalta hai, chalta hai, none of that. You have to be extremely passionate. Junoon hona bahut zaruri hai. And that's an important part of being an entrepreneur. And it's a skill you have to acquire. Okay. And then now I come to the question of, am I ready to start my entrepreneurial journey? Now, I come from a middle-class background, and therefore, we didn't have any money to take risks with. And then I got married early in life. We had kids early in life. And so I didn't want to subject them to all the flickering of fortunes that happens as being an entrepreneur. And so I didn't jump into it until my kids were grown up, right? And that comes to the whole point of safety and duties. You're young. You may not have dependence on you, but you still may have duties, and you have to keep those in mind. Your kartavya, right? Your duties. Because you see, what's going to happen is, if you don't pay attention to personal and financial safety, and ignoring your own sense of duty that you have towards either society or your parents or your cousins, your whatever friends, it will eventually catch up with you, because dhire dhire it'll wear you down, right? If you're not feeling psychologically and financially safe, then it's terrible, because then you can't innovate too much. You're always under stress and duress. So you have to find ways to build a safety cushion in order to be an entrepreneur, because it'll help you last longer in your journey. And the longer you last, the more your chances of success are, because eventually something might take off, because you're always applying your mind and skill and so on and so forth. So acquiring that becomes really important. Now, with that in mind, I wanted to tell you that there's another hack, another thing that I really like, another niti that I'd like to give you, which is your passion and your clarity, right? When you speak, it should change people's mind. It should change their reality. Itne enthusiasm se bola hai ki people are excited by your thing, whatever it is that you've told them, right? Haan, ye to theek bol rahi hai, right? That passion, how do you develop that passion? Well, you do what Amir Khan did in the movie Rang De Basanti, which is to say, I got through and Niti did this. Okay, he did this. He applied what I'm going to tell you is Bhans Niti. Now you're like, what the heck does that mean? How come this is a serious talk? Okay, I'm going to move to this side and have you look at Amir Khan talking to a Bhans. Now, if you remember this movie sequence, if you don't, I will remind you of it. Amir Khan has a dialogue to memorize. And so now he needs to say it with conviction to people. Now, obviously, his friends are going to be tired of hearing him. So what does he do? He goes to his gaon. In this particular song sequence, he's at his village. His mom is sitting by his side, cutting some veggies, and he is reciting his lines to the bhais, right? So what you need to take away is this: talk to the bhais, right? Which is to say, talk to everyone, anyone you can care to find about what you do. Why? Why is that important? It's important for the same reason it was important for Amir Khan's character in Rang De Basanti, which is you need to develop conviction. And to develop conviction, you need to figure out what the heck it is that you're doing. So tell everyone your idea until you understand it. Let me say this properly. Tell everyone your idea until you understand it. Now, that everyone does not need to be your competitor, but it can be your parent, your friends, your diary, your cow, your dog, your cat. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, because through this process of repetition, you will find the things that are most interesting in your work. You will understand the meaning and importance of your entrepreneurial project, right? And that clarity, that passion, that brilliance in you will become your energy driver through your journey, because people will be attracted to you. People will be able to work for you because they know what you want. People will be able to give you money for your company because you are passionate about it and you speak about it with so much clarity and so much conviction. But clarity or conviction koi bazaar mein thodi milta hai. You have to develop it yourself, and that's why I'm telling you, talk to the bhais, right? Which is talk to anyone you can find and just tell them what you're doing. It doesn't need to be human. It doesn't need to be alive. You just need to be able to recite this enough times and look for the things that's interesting. I am doing this because it solved this problem. If I solve this properly, These people will pay me this much money in order to solve it. And therefore, I multiply these numbers. My total addressable market is this much, right? It's math from that point onwards. But before that, it's all your clarity. And if you go kacha bakka, I don't know, I'm doing something, then you yourself will not know what you're doing. If someone accidentally gives you money also, you'll waste it because you don't know what the heck you're doing. Right? Through this process of sharpening, talking to the best, you're able to have a clear vision for what you're doing. And that's extremely important as an entrepreneur. All right. With that, I have come to to a sort of end of my prepared talk, and I will come back to Q&A. But let's go through and do a recap. The first thing I talked to you about was that you need to know that the world that we have entered is a raging forest fire. There's a lot of change, a lot of churn, and there is no safety in a large company. There is no safety in a startup, but probably more fun in a startup, right? And startups have a higher chance of success right now because the world is forever shifting. Nothing is certain. And that gives you the opportunity to solve problems that other people cannot solve, which brings us to chapter 2. Your ability to solve and serve becomes very important. You have to develop an attitude of service and develop your capacity to solve problems. Chapter 3, I talked to you about Shraddha and Saburi, your ability to believe in your dreams, to have dreams, to believe in your dreams is extremely important because otherwise you'll keep changing your mind every day. And the patience and fortitude to work hard and put in the hours, put in the days, put in the weeks, put in the months, put in the years to make your work successful. That patience is extremely important as an entrepreneur. Next up, we are now talking about Swadharma and Samay, which is your inner nature, your team's inner nature, your community's inner nature, your society's inner nature. You have to see, yahan par ye chal jayega. And for that, you need to have a sense of what is the inner nature of everything you interact with. What is natural to this particular thing? For example, we talked about food delivery. Khana to roz khate hain, right? People like to order out. And so people like to order out and they'll like to not go out and pick it. And now you know the inner nature of your society is that people like to eat, they like spicy food or whatever, masaledar food, and they like it delivered quickly. They're willing to pay some money for it. Now you have a market. All right. So that's the Swadharma and Samay part. The timing of your startup is important. If you're doing something that is hot today, I will assure you that it will not be hot tomorrow. Right? And then you'll certainly find that the market has receded. Interest has abated. People have moved on to the next interesting thing. So when you're doing a startup as an entrepreneur, you have to find something that will be ripe when your product is ready. Right? Not something that is ripe today, and by the time your product is ready, market aage chala gaya. Right? Now, so Vasudha had a question, how do we find an accurate and faithful market, right? This is the thing I was talking to you about. You have to talk to people, you have to try to understand their problems and increase the size of your ears, right? So you can hear what they're saying, not what they're saying at your face, where the gaps in their conversation are, where their points are. You have to hear for those. And that's how you know you have a market. Then you say, okay, I'll do this, and you try it. And the other thing is a process of iteration is important. You solve a small problem, people like it. You solve small problem plus another thing, people like that. So you keep iterating and building your product by always listening to the market, right? That was chapter 4. Finally, we talked about in chapter 5, 3 words, Jugaad, Junoon, and Kartavya. Jugaad is your ability to innovate, your ability to go around problems. Junoon is your passion, which is your currency as an entrepreneur. And Kartavya is your sense of duties that you have to honor, whether you ignore it for 1 year or 2 years. You have to be aware of your duties and know how to respect them, because otherwise they'll catch up with you. All right. Now, what does AI and automation what impact can it have on traditional entrepreneurial ventures? It can have a traditional impact, a massive impact for one simple reason. And that's one of the things I already talked about, which was Hathi. Hathi, right? Not Sati and Hatta, just the Hathi. AI and automation are supercharging, turbocharging everything because now you can do things faster, right? Things that require logical analysis or, go through these 20 websites or do this or repeat this process or whatever. You can do it very quickly. Now you can innovate much faster, solve bigger problems at scale. And so it's a very powerful Hathi to ride because AI is now the time is right for AI. It wasn't the right time 5 years ago, but now the technology has suddenly come to a place where the timing is right. And you can find a lot of new and interesting things to do. In 5 years, the time may not be right for AI because a lot of the most interesting problems have been solved by people that started now, right? So the time now is just about right. 5 years later, maybe too late. 10 years later, maybe too late. And so on. So you have to think about that timing. All right. Okay. Does AI and automation pose a risk to me? No. In fact, to my business, which is when I'm saying the problem of professionals and how they're going to improve, AI and automation are great for me because essentially, what am I saying? I'm saying AI and automation. Technology is making us distracted, lowering our attention span, and AI and automation are taking away work that requires low attention span. So, kya karna hai bhai logo? You have to go up. You have to do things that require high attention span by learning how to hold on to your attention and energy. How are you going to do that? You will pay me for services that allow you to improve your attention span, and therefore you'll be a better professional. You see how that works? So it doesn't actually disrupt my business. It's the Hathi that I'm hoping to ride in that sense. All right. And so now I think I've come to the end of my prepared talk, leaving 15 minutes for questions and comments. You have to unmute yourself, but you also have to turn your video on as you ask the question so I can answer you directly. With that, I transfer the controls back to Arashi, you and Gyana. And I thank you for listening to me patiently and for all the fun we've had so far. All right, on to questions. Arashi, you have to turn your video on.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
First of all, I would like to request you all to please fill the feedback form that has been circulated in the chat box and the WhatsApp groups. And do please ask the questions.
All right. There's a question that has come to me personally, which is, what's been my journey? How did I manage to be an entrepreneur from being from a middle class family? So I had a job for the longest time. I worked in a very good company. I did a very good job. I was very senior in that company, and then I got tired of doing that job because I wanted to do something more fun, more interesting, and I wanted to follow my passion. At that time, we had some money set aside, but I couldn't take too much risk, so I did a lot of consulting work. After that, I met an entrepreneur who had a product. He wasn't able to sell it. I joined him as co-founder, and then we ran that product for some time. Then we sold the company, and now what I'm doing is at a point in my life where I actually have more time and more freedom financially because my kartavya, those have lifted because my children have grown up, right? And so you see how timing matters in that sense. It's not as if there are some people who have quit everything. I have friends who are very successful unicorn entrepreneurs, and they've founded their companies under very difficult circumstances. Their family is in one country, their company is in another country, and they're running the company for the last 10 years, hugely successful, but a lot of sacrifices that they had to make. Yeah. All right. Next question is from your teacher, Rimaji. So her question is, building trust and marketing is another big challenge other than technical and financial glitches. How do you deal with it? Building trust is extremely important, which is why I began with Seva Bhav. You have to have a spirit of service. If you are not trustworthy as an entrepreneur, you will not get too many clients that will stick with you for too long. So there's no shortcut here. You might think there is, but there is none. Shortcuts typically lead to jail, as the Theranos girl found out, right? So that's one. Two, marketing is a big challenge. Marketing is a big challenge because no one knows you, right? No one knows you. No one knows you. No one knows the product that you build, right? So now you have to find ways to be known, right? And that is challenging. So now that's the reason I talked to you about Swadharma. Your inner nature also includes your network of people that you have connections with, your parents, your friends. You ask them to introduce you to Falana company, Dinamarca company, right? You have to try your personal network initially because no one knows you and you don't have the money to spend on marketing. And even if you did have the money to spend on marketing, you'd be spending a lot more just letting them know your name, right? Until you have VC money. When you have VC money, of course, you can spend a lot of money on marketing, but then by then you already have a good product going. All right. Okay. ज्यादा सेवा भाव है तो लोग intentions को doubt करने लगते हैं. That is true. सेवा भाव is not at the risk of survival, right? It is not कि सर आपके लिए है free ले जाइए सर पैसे देने की कोई जरूरत. No one does that unless you're VC funded, in which case people might still do it all the time, even now. But generally speaking, the point of the Seva Bhava is simply knowing that there is a problem that you're solving for someone for which you are charging money. I actually thank you for Rimaji for saying that. I worked for Infosys. Infosys for the longest time had the highest profit margins in the industry, right? And we did it because we said it's the only way to know that we're doing good work. We told that to our clients. Our clients gave us a 10 to 20% premium over every other company because we said, look, we don't know if you're doing a good job if you're paying us the same as the next guy, right? Hold us to a high standard and then pay us more, but pay us more, right? And for a whole decade, Infosys was the highest margin and highest price company in the industry because that's the standard we held ourselves to. Okay. Now, another question that has come to me directly is sometimes we feel that, oh, this field is not for us because we lack the practice and information about that field. And how do we know this is the right field for us, right? Okay, practice and information now hona is not a disadvantage. It turns out sometimes it is an advantage because ये taxi business ही ले लो. Uber जब आया था, why did the technology that Uber contained has existed 10 years prior to that also. How come no one built it? Because जब आप industry में होते हो, आपको पैसे बन रहे हैं. You have no reason to disrupt your industry. You look at hotels, you look at banks, you look at media and entertainment. You think anyone wants to disrupt their business? किसी को interest नहीं है, right? So the industry has no interest in. Those who know that industry have no interest in driving the change many times. Right? When you're a new person, there are several advantages you have. One, you don't know how things are done, so you can do things differently. Right? You don't know what the constraints are, so you can go around them. So there are some advantages to not being in a particular field. Don't think of yourself poorly because you're not in that field. However, it doesn't mean you can go into anything and do anything. No, you have to develop an interest and passion and investigate that field. Spend time hearing things. Spend time talking to people, looking over their shoulders and understanding what is it that they're doing. Build that from ground up. Remember those Janpat kids I was talking about, right? So Max Muller Bhavan नहीं गए, but एक German tourist से बात किया, दूसरे से बात किया, तीसरे से बात किया, उनको नंबर समझ आ गए, right? काम शुरू हो गया. The point is, you can build expertise by talking to a lot of people, solving little problems that you can solve, and then building out from that. It's very important. Okay. Now, sometimes you feel there's no guidance or path to follow in your life. So how do you deal with it? Self-doubt is a very standard part of an entrepreneur's life journey. Kashti hai, because if you're an entrepreneur, like a male entrepreneur, everyone will doubt you, including your spouse. Because you're like, kya kar rahe ho? Koi to, it's like a stupid thing. You could easily get a job and just be cozy, right? Why are you doing this madness? And that is correct. And sometimes it gets to you. So you have to build tremendous confidence in yourself that I can solve this problem. ये नहीं होगा कुछ और कर लेंगे, right? पैसे खत्म हो जाएंगे, नौकरी कर लेंगे, क्या problem है, right? You have to have a confidence in your own capabilities, and for that I have a short story. When I was after my MBA, I was working in Bombay as an equity analyst. Equity analysts make a lot of money, and it's good, interesting work. But I wanted to move, and so someone said there's an executive search job that I could get, and I interviewed. I was offered this job. I didn't know what to do with it because I'm a finance MBA. I'm doing equity analysis. It's good money, and now just with 2 years of experience, why should I move into this completely random other thing, executive search? So I didn't know who to ask. So I asked one professor who I knew. I sent him an email. I said, Professor Joseph, this is the problem. This is Gaurav, I'm Ahmedabad se ho. Naukriyan to mil hi jayenge tumhe, right? I think the experience is what matters. Just go and get the experience, right? Job or career mein farak hota hai. You're going to have a good career. You can get jobs. Right? You do this, it doesn't work, you do something else. Don't worry about it. The point of that was not that everyone should go to IIM Ahmedabad. You should if you want to, but you have to have confidence in yourself, right? You have to trust yourself because आप अपने आप को trust नहीं करोगे तो कोई आपको क्यों पैसे देगा? If you don't trust yourself, nobody else will trust you either. So you have to cultivate that. Okay. Sometimes you make mistakes. They help later. All the time. You have to make mistakes all the time. And in fact, if you have a allergy to failure, you can't be a good entrepreneur. A good entrepreneur makes a ton of mistakes. Because आप करके ही तो पता करोगे, गलती से मिस्टेक होगा तभी तो पता चलेगा कि अरे ये नहीं है, ये करना चाहिए, right? So you have to have a thick skin for mistakes and make a lot of mistakes, भर भर के, because that's how you learn. That's how you iterate, right? Failure is a data point. Failure is not a terminal point. And this is a very important thing to learn as an entrepreneur. Every failure gives you data. Not every failure is a terminal point कि बस अब तो career ही खत्म हो गया, अब तो life ही खत्म हो गई. No, none of that. Life goes on. You'll do something else. नए failures करेंगे, right? That's the spirit to have. All right. Is it important to do an MBA? Yeah, तुम hog करियो. Whoever is asking these questions or sending me personally, you have to let other people ask the questions. But this is a great question, so I'll answer it. Do you need to do an MBA to get a better knowledge of business and related stuff? In Silicon Valley, they say it's a disadvantage to do an MBA because you know too much about how things used to be done, right? But I wouldn't say that to Indian MBAs because India may, we don't really get the full spectrum of knowledge that the American education system has. We don't know how to present. We don't know how to think about business. We don't know how profit and loss works or how economies work. There's a lot of things we don't know. So it might be helpful to do an MBA, but don't think of it as a crutch. Don't let it come in the way. The knowledge is important. You can acquire that knowledge by learning by yourself or going to a business school. It doesn't matter. But as long as you're doing it to learn, that's okay. If you're doing it as an excuse कि बस 2 साल बाद करेंगे, तब तक MBA कर लें, so then you will find some other excuse 2 years later, and then you say, अभी तैयार नहीं है, timing ठीक नहीं है. You'll find another reason not to do it. So don't worry about that too much. All right. Dr. Gera, I know you've turned the video on, so why don't you come in? And thank you for inviting me to speak. I appreciate your this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's really a very interesting session. And I was really very listening with the full attention and engagement. So I was just thinking that what's coming next. So thanks a lot for the wonderful session. And it's really giving me a very insight about the new startups and the challenges and the preparations and the way to move on this particular area. Because this is an area which we have not explored till now. So thanks a lot for the session, and we would like to have you more sessions in future regarding other topics also. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Look, to all the people listening, all the girls, I want you to succeed. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur. It's a great opportunity to learn. Even if you fail, क्या हो जाएगा? तुमने करा क्या अभी life में? बच्चे हो, right? Do it, fail, and then you can get a job after that. But the point is, learn something about yourself. Learn, it'll bring something about you that you didn't know you had inside you. So it's a great opportunity, and it's a great time in history to be doing this. If this is what you feel like doing, it's a great time to be riding that hathi, right? And in terms of the other thing I wanted to say is, and Mansi, thank you very much for calling me. She had said that on this mind, attention, and energy, I should tell you a little bit more. I have these sessions; they're free, and I'm happy for you to join in. If you have things to do, work to work on, and so on and so forth. Let me share my screen for 1 second. Go to my website, ekrasworks.com, EKRASWA works.com, and you will find over here a bunch of meeting schedule, right? Some of these are India time. You will see India morning, right? India morning. And so those meetings, you can book that on your calendar and then show up, and I'll help you learn how to focus your attention, focus your mind, and focus your energy. And then you'll find, to your surprise, that you're able to get a lot more done. Your insights are more brilliant, and your work is of more interesting quality and more satisfying. So I would love to see you in those sessions as well. All right. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Otherwise, I wish you all the best, and I hope to see some of your
So one
names.
more thing.
Anji. Yes.
So in fact, you're doing a brilliant job, and I would say our students are already working as interns under your guidance and Pooja
Yes,
ma'am's
yes.
guidance. And for your ACRES also, you can have our students as interns who can promote these things. So they'll be very happy to work with you. And
पहले
you will
इस्तेमाल
also
करें,
be
फिर विश्वास
benefited.
करें. No,
Yes.
come to those meetings. Yeah. And Rimaji, thank you. I should have said, I met some of the girls, was it last year? You're doing an amazing work for us for my Hindu Community Institute. We're very pleased with the hard work you're putting in, and it's and more people, again, we have work to do. So thank you for that, Rimaji. And please
And
come to
we
these
were also
meetings, and then
talking
you tell
about
me you want to
some-
work.
Yes, you were also talking about some technical work. We are ready whenever
Yeah.
you ask us. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sakshi, thank you for your feedback to me one-on-one. All right. Thank you very much. Good luck. And I hope to see your names in the press with your amazingly successful companies and your stories. I really want to hear it. It'll give me great joy that you're successful. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
so much, sir. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the Department of Computer Science, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Gaurav Rastogi, sir, founder of Acres Works and Do Loop Digital. Your words of inspiration and encouragement on this special day are greatly appreciated. Thank you for acknowledging us about entrepreneurship and the prospects of it. I would also like to thank Honorable Principal Professor Sadhna Sharma, respected convener Dr. Jaya Gera ma'am, and respected co-conveners Dr. Shweta Tagi ma'am, Ms. Mansi Sood ma'am, and Ms. Pratibha Yadav ma'am. I would also like to thank Mr. Johnny Birla sir, Mr. Sarabjit sir, Mr. Minakshi ma'am, and other teacher staff as well. We are grateful to the esteemed delegates of the webinar and all of the attendees for their presence and efforts in making this event a success. Thank you, everyone. And I would also like to request you all to please fill the feedback form that has been circulated among the groups. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much, sir.
Thank
Thank
you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.